fiber and everything. Great. And I leave.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Just have an extra backup.
Yeah.
Cool.
We getting close, Shane? Right. So should Bill go ahead and get up to the Bill? I think you can go ahead and get up to the podium. It's going to be. What's that? Yeah, I think we're pretty close. Yep. Under 5. Thank you.
Frank, turn your phone off.
If you haven't already done it, go ahead and silence your phone. Turn them off if you would. Good evening, and welcome to the Mayoral Candidates Forum for the November 2nd Mount Airy Special Election. My name is Bill Butts. I'm Treasurer for the Community Media Center Board of Directors. Tonight's forum is being held at the Town Hall in Mount Airy and broadcast live on cable channels HD 1086 and cable channel 19. It's also being streamed live on Facebook, YouTube, and the Community Media Center website at carrollmediacenter.org. The Community Media Center is providing this programming as a public service to the Mount Airy community. And just to reiterate the long-standing CMC policy, The Carroll Media Center does not endorse any political candidate or political organization. Tonight's forum is being recorded, so we ask everyone to please turn off their cell phones or to put them on silent. We also ask attendees to refrain from applause or making noise during the forum or doing anything visible or audible to express support or opposition to any candidate during the forum. And now it's my pleasure to turn the program over to our moderator for the evening, Bob Bluebaugh, Managing Editor, Digital Content for the Community Media Center. Bob?
Thank you, Bill. As moderator, I'll introduce the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. We'll then move to the question and answer portion of the evening, and each candidate will again have 2 minutes to answer each question. All candidates will answer identical questions. There will be no debate. This is an informational forum. At the conclusion of the question and answer period, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a summary statement. All responses will be timed, and I will stop the candidates when their 2 minutes have expired. We're planning to go for about an hour today. We got a lot of questions to cover. The questions posed to tonight's candidates are a mixture of prepared questions, questions submitted in advance by Mount Airy residents, and questions brought to us from members of tonight's audience. We appreciate all the questions that we received, and we will, like I said, get to as many of them as we possibly can. The questions may have been edited or combined with others for brevity. And so thanks to all who provided the questions, and thanks to both candidates for agreeing to join us and participate in the forum. So let us begin. First, we'll hear an opening statement from Larry Hushour.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to start by saying thank you, Bob, and all of the Carroll Media Center for taking the time to host this event. I'd also like to say thank you to Pam for agreeing to this venue. I feel it is important for everyone to see the candidates in this public forum prior to electing the next mayor of the town. I do want to say I truly regret the situation that is called for this special election. I always respected Pat, and Noah's shoes will not be easy to fill. So why am I running? Well, Mount Airy is my family's home. When we moved here 21 years ago, it didn't take long to start discovering the amazing history of this town. And that led to meeting people, visiting the shops, attending events, and becoming active in the Mount Airy Historical Society and the town government. My entire family has spent 2 decades uncovering the rich history and heritage of our home. We fundraise and advocate for several nonprofits and causes in the town, including the Historical Society, the Rotary Club, MS Cures, and the many walks, supporting research and cures for disease. Simply put, our home does not stop at our fence line. It encompasses the entire town. Our volunteering led me to run for town council in 2017, so I could be more involved with some of the decisions made for our community. Though my term ended in May, I have stayed involved, informed, and ready to assist in town events. Serving my last 2 years as council president was certainly a fire hose of education to all things town government. I believe it is the best preparation to step into the role of mayor. And I believe with my 20 years of service in the Navy, managing complex maintenance contracts, combined with my degree in economics from the Naval Academy, I will be able to serve responsibly, keep our town financially viable, and protect us from the outside strains that adversely impact our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Pamela Reed.
Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, I want to thank Bill Butts and the Community Media Center of Carroll County for hosting us this evening and providing the opportunity. During my time in service, I've had the privilege to meet with many residents and businesses, exchanging ideas and discussing the future of our wonderful town. I am looking forward to this evening's Mayoral Candidate Forum, where I am afforded the opportunity to share in more detail my thoughts, goals, and vision related to our town and our continued success. Thank you to everyone in the audience and everyone at home watching on the live stream. I'm anxious to get started. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now begin the question and answer portion of the evening. So we'll start with Pamela. Both of you have contributed much to this community over the years and have served as town council members and in other capacities, establishing yourself as town leaders. What motivates you to now aspire to be mayor of Mount Airy? What differences do you see in the two roles? And regardless of how the election turns out, What are your priorities over the next 6 months to substantially benefit the town?
So there's 3 questions in there, so I'll do my best. What inspires me to run for mayor is my love for the community. I have deep relationships with many business owners and many community residents, and I understand what Mount Airy needs to achieve economic health. It is passion deep within me. Over the next 6 months, we need to, as always, continue to be fiscally responsible. We need to ensure that our businesses and residents are recovering from COVID. That comes through community outreach and really just having an understanding of what we need as a community.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, I think I can combine all 3 of those and maybe answer the question at one time. What motivates me is my love for this town. When you drive down Main Street, I've always compared it to it's like a diorama of Americana. It's simply a cool place to live, and it's a great place to get out of the car and walk around. I think that needs to be protected. Our historic Main Street needs to be protected. So that's kind of what motivates me in the big sense. Now, protecting it requires all kinds of things. Of course, I've been big on walkability to Main Street with the Rails to Trails program. But I like sidewalk or nature trails all over the place. So I kind of focus on that to get more people downtown, because that's what keeps our Main Street vibrant, is people going into the shops and the restaurants. So that's a very good motivator to protect the town. I think that as we look forward, right now, we have some serious growth issues in the town of Mount Airy, and we need a leader who steps in and looks at the town holistically and not just bore sites strictly on Main Street. Main Street needs to be protected, but we got to look at the perimeter and look at Highway 27 and all the growth that could potentially occur out there that detracts things from Main Street. So my goal and my vision over the next 6 months is to make sure that the county doesn't do anything crazy on our borders, and that we don't become a town that we all moved away from to come here and raise our families and enjoy the events and enjoy Americana in Mount Airy. Thank you.
Thank you. You mentioned growth. What steps, and we'll start with you, Larry, what steps will your administration take to control growth in Mount Airy so it doesn't become another Urbana, Germantown, Gaithersburg, or similar small town that has experienced traffic gridlock, overcrowding, sprawl, and a reduced quality of life?
I got to tell you, I could not have asked that question any better because it really lays it out there. I mean, that's our biggest concern, is that we're going to turn into a community that we moved away from. So what I plan to do as a mayor is immediately, and I even started this in September when I phoned into the commissioners' meeting to listen to the plans that were in front of them on growth on just north of Watersville Road on the opposite side of Nils Farm. I mean, one of the plans, they have 2 plans in front of them. One of them includes 1,200 new residences. That's well over 2,000 people that would be added to our population. And if they do it in the county, well, we don't see any benefits from that. We just have the increased population, but when they hit the 911 buttons, we're the ones who have to answer it. So as the mayor, what I'm gonna do is talk to the county and make sure that they understand that anything they do impacts all of our infrastructure. We got to get those conversations started, and in my opinion, we should have started them several months ago. I think Councilman Munder showed up at that meeting as well with a letter from the town. So I know the staff knows what's going on, and as the mayor, I'm going to get together with the staff, and we're going to figure out exactly what we need to do to put some controls on the county. Within the town, though, we have some issues too, because we've recently, and we do have a downtown vision plan, and we do want Center Street to connect. And I've never changed my opinion on that. So that came up a while back. But the true intent of this is going ahead and making sure that we sequence everything correctly. We don't want the dominoes to fall out of place and put ourselves in a position where we do become one of those towns that we moved away from. I think I'm the right person to sit at the table and put some controls on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela?
So no one wants to see Mount Airy overdeveloped. It's our responsibility as leaders, whether mayor or town council, to protect the town. I do believe it's our obligation and responsibility to have conversations with the developers so that we can understand what their intention is and we can convey what we expect. We have to foster the relationships with state and county leaders. It's very important. They need to understand what we want as well as what we don't want. And we just have to keep engaging. We have to protect the town from overdevelopment. We can't stop all development, but we can make sure that it complements our character.
Thank you. Starting with you, Pamela. Do you have any plans for the $7.9 million in relief money that Mount Airy will be receiving? Also, will all the expenditures be public information, and will the public have a voice on what expenditures should be at the forefront?
So the grant funds that we're receiving, we are given parameters of how we can use it. The first batch was water and sewer. As mayor, we can work with staff to ensure that the right projects are chosen. Town staff did an excellent job working with members of council input to allot the first batch of money. So as mayor, we just need to make sure that those funds are going to the right place. And again, it's delegated by, the parameters written within the money of how we can spend it. So we can't say, okay, we're gonna take $1 million of the water and waste money and go build a police department. So.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, I totally agree that money is being metered into the town, and the first allotment of money that came to us was for that water and sewer infrastructure, and that's going to be used to replace all the meters in our houses, so expect a knock on your door at some point. Of course, when the state gives us money through the whole COVID relief package, there are parameters on it. There's only so much we can do with it, and we're not getting a blank check for $7.9 million. We have to abide by the constraints that are placed on that money. So I think the staff has done a great job in figuring out exactly where to spend the money the first time around, and more money will come later, and we'll just have to see what the parameters are on it. As the mayor, what I intend to do is sit down with the town administrator and the town engineer and everybody else, and make sure that we have the right priorities for any money that is sent our direction and can be added to our budget. That's the mayor's most important job, is managing that budget. And I think I'm the right person to sit there and look at the budget, make sure that money comes in, gets prioritized, and put in the correct categories. Of course, the council passes the budget, and so they, if I do something in there that they don't care for, they have the opportunity to take a look at it and make the adjustments. 4 years on the council, we were able to get through 4 different budget cycles without any problems, and we made some tweaks on it as it was presented, and we managed to keep it balanced. And that's what I expect to do over the next, the remainder of this term, is make sure that we have balanced budgets and we're fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. There are a variety of personalities on the current town council. Related to that, how will you manage to work with these folks for the greater good of the town? And possibly related, do you feel it is appropriate for elected officials to block their constituents on social media accounts? And let's start with Larry.
Well, what I can tell you is that now I run 2 social media accounts, so I'll just cover that real quick. One of them is for when I was a councilman, and currently it's one as I'm running for mayor. And then the other one is my personal account. And I have been called quite a few things. Some of them have left me laughing, and some of them I puzzle me. But I never block anybody. I'd never blocked anybody from either account, and I don't think that's the right thing to do. I think that if somebody has a disagreement with something that I'm doing, then by all means, you know, go ahead and throw it out there, and we'll bat it around a little bit. And I may not like it, but it's going to be there. Okay, so that's the answer to the second part of that question. Could you repeat the first part of the question?
Sure. Regarding the personalities on the current town council, as mayor, how will you manage to work with these folks for the greater good of the town?
Okay, thank you. And I would tell you that it's going to be fine. We met the other day out at the playground, which you did an excellent job on, and we discussed about the skate park, and we were out there with Billy Shreve and one of the Parks Board members, and Sarah was out there, and we all sat down and batted around the idea of this you know, pump park for the skateboards, and we found the location. We worked together great. You know, I managed to build a basketball court over in Twin Arch Crossing using impact fees from a development over there, and you managed to get in a playground. I think we're going to be just fine, and I look forward to working with the council. And you know, it's good to have diverse opinions on the council, and I think we're going to be just fine. I'm looking forward to it, and you know, I'm going to get along with everybody. I always do. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I have since re-unblocked Larry. So just so that everyone knows, there is no contention at this table. Larry and I are friends. Sometimes during an election cycle, emotions get charged. But at the end of the day, we are still neighbors. We are still friends. We can, you know, work together regardless of what happens. As addressing working with town council, I would consider everyone that sits at this table the first Monday of every month a friend. Part of being a leader is being able to have continued conversations and listening without bias. We need diversity at the table, whether it's mayor or town council. If we all thought alike, we would have a bigger problem. So the fact that there is, we should argue sometimes at this table because that leads us to the right answer. So.
Thank you. Beginning with you this time, Pamela. COVID-19 is still top of mind for citizens regarding policies being employed in nearby towns, counties, and cities. Do you support mask mandates? Do you support vaccine mandates? And do you support vaccine passports?
Interesting question. I do, quite frankly, but I also believe in personal choice. The fact that if my daughter going to school every day wearing a mask keeps her safer, then yes, I do support it. But again, I do support personal choice. If somebody chooses not to get the vaccine, that's their choice. That's the beauty of living in the country that we live in. So yeah. So the other thing I'll mention, during COVID-19, obviously we all went through life-changing experience. We never thought in our lifetime that would happen to us. Mount Airy did a fantastic job of supporting our residents and our businesses. Through that process, we passed a grant program that awarded businesses grant money to help them survive. Later on, we passed a loan program that also supported the businesses to help them survive. The town provided as many masks and bottles of hand sanitizer that we could get out to the community and as fast as we could. We had a task force to help mitigate the process. So I think we as a community came together as a whole, and you know, we are almost on the other side of it. So let's just keep moving forward.
Thank you. Larry?
All right, thanks. I think our town did a great job as well. I think that, you know, I think Governor Hogan did a great job, and I think the numbers prove that throughout the country. You know, I think Maryland took a common sense approach toward most of these things. And being an airline pilot, I had to keep flying right through this entire pandemic. Sometimes we only have one person on the airplane, but you know, we just kept right on going. So I've seen the states in Florida, Texas, And then states that are very rigid, out in California and everything. So I've seen a little bit of everything. So what I would say, as opposed to saying, do I support mask updates or mandates? I think it was vaccine mandates and then a passport. At the end, if the passport thing works a little hard for me because I fly for a living. So, but the rest of them, I think we just have to exercise common sense. I do think that Maryland's government is doing a very good job. I'm in an industry that just mandated the vaccine, but we went out and got the vaccine by our own personal choice. And I think that's the way it needs to be. I think that people need to make their personal choice on getting that vaccine. Where you run into a problem is when your industry or your business or whoever you're working from says you're going to get the vaccine or we're going to fire you. Now it's a whole different question for you to answer, but that's not what the mayor is going to be out there dictating. The mayor is going to be out there supporting what the state is putting out. And that's what I would do as a mayor. I would, I trust the way Maryland's done it. I think they've done a good job, and I would support all the way up the government structure to Larry Hogan. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, starting with Larry. Mount Airy residents have noted in several surveys that traffic safety on Main Street is an issue. How do you plan to address this concern, which is vital to Main Street residents' safety and the visions for revitalizing downtown?
Okay. All right. Well, I agree. Traffic on Main Street is an issue, and it is interesting that that it does keep coming up on surveys. I do think that we have problems throughout the town, though. There's certainly hot spots, be it Rising Ridge Road or down Watersville Road. There's other areas that we need to look at. But Main Street safety in particular is something that keeps coming up. So the Streets and Roads Commission actually had a presentation. I think it was Councilman Demoter put together a presentation on Main Street safety. And I think that Councilwoman Galletti is listening to everything, and the Streets and Roads Commission is listening to everything to see if there's ways to mediate those issues that occur on our Main Street. And I'm supportive. I've certainly thumbed through Councilman Demoter's ideas. I think a lot of them are valid. So I think the next step is for the Streets and Roads Commission and the council liaison to there to contact myself and the town administrator and see if any of those ideas are worthy and would actually decrease the problems that we have on Main Street with traffic safety. So that's the way I would go as mayor. I would go ahead and make sure that the Streets and Roads Commission is heard and Councilman Demoter's proposals are heard by the town administrator and the staff, and I would facilitate and cooperate with all those efforts.
Thank you. Pamela?
Yeah, so the question addresses traffic safety on Main Street as well as the revitalization of downtown. So I'm going to answer it in 3 parts, but stick to my 2 minutes. Center Street. With the Center Street extension, it will become the gateway to our downtown area. That extension, in theory, will eliminate a lot of traffic on Main Street. So by putting that extension through, we're going to take some of that traffic off. The Flatiron building, the stretch of road right in front of the Flatiron building is a huge safety concern for me and for many residents. The road is not wide enough, and you cannot safely pass a truck and a car through that area. So how do we correct that safety concern? We need to address the Flatiron building. As mayor, one of the roles of mayor is to oversee town staff, including the police department. So as mayor, I would work with the police department and the Streets and Road Commission to one, try to mitigate speeding, but also get their input. They're the experts, right? They know what's going on out there. Again, it's that open communication and coming up with plans and relying on the subject matter experts to make recommendations. So as mayor, I would work closely with the Mount Airy Police Department. Thank you.
Thank you. And since you mentioned the Flatiron building, the council is currently considering several options for the Flatiron building and surrounding area, including demolishing, refurbishing, or moving the building. The costs on the options run from a few $100,000 to several million. Which plan do you support and why? I'll start with Pamela.
So this crazy idea in my head has been developing since our last town council meeting. And it goes back to a presentation that we received from Mr. Molesworth. He had an idea that we gut the inside of the building, make it a two-story art gallery, so to speak. But by doing that, we don't address the safety issues in the area or the lack of ADA compliance and accessibility. So what I am going to propose to town council for their consideration is to lift the building, push it back, which will widen the road. We preserve the building, which holds great historic value to many residents in Mount Airy. We would have the ability to put an elevator on the back of the building, as well as develop the plaza as written in the downtown vision plan. So it really addresses everything: safety, accessibility, and preserving the building. We haven't studied that yet, if it's possible, but it is an option that I'm going to throw out there.
Thank you. Larry?
The Flatiron building was bought in 1959, and we're still talking about it. Chick-fil-A got approved like a year ago, and they're almost done. So that's how the government, how quickly the government moves. So it's an interesting issue when we talk about the Flatiron building and how long it has taken to get to this point. So what I've found, and believe me, I've worked around every side of this issue that I could. A few years ago, Preservation Maryland was contacted, and so we actually set up a meeting with them and met in that building to discuss the alternatives and what Preservation Maryland would recommend on that. So to make a long story short, because the building is in such horrid condition right now, it's either got to be restored in place with significant construction and everything that goes into that, or we're going to have to figure out how to pick it up and move it. As I've been walking around talking to everybody, I believe that the building is worth saving. I believe that that Mr. Molesworth's plan is certainly worthy of consideration, and I believe that the town engineer could be consulted, and we could figure out a way to, as well, pick up that building, move it back, preserve it for the town, and fix some of the problems. One thing I want to make very clear at the beginning of this whole thought process that I go through is that Park Avenue has to stay open. I'm not one that would advocate at all for Park Avenue closing. That needs to stay open because our emergency services use it, and we need to be able to access that road. So whatever we do to the Flatiron building to try to preserve it for all the residents in town who enjoy it, I think we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with you this time, Larry. What's your stance on the tabled amendment to an ordinance pertaining to adequate facilities, stating that a development project in a mixed-use district may be granted a waiver if it provides 10% of the total gross acreage of the project for open space?
Okay. Of course, I've been speaking out about against this ordinance since it came up. So it goes back to the Center Street discussion, and it was tied into a second ordinance. So I want to make it clear to start with, I still support the downtown vision plan, and I still support the completion of Center Street. But there's processes that need to be followed, and I consider myself a process guy. Most of the time that I have problems with something the town is doing is because we've stepped out of that process. The rezoning of that property is set to happen in the master plan, but unfortunately, the master plan is 2 years out, and we jumped ahead of that process and went ahead and approved that mixed-use zoning. That's done by the council. It was done at the October meeting, and I don't plan on relitigating that. That property will be MXD on Center Street. The second question is, should we provide a waiver for the required open space for development to occur in that mixed-use zone? And I'm against that. Right now, we're about 80 acres deficit on our open space. If you complete that project and provide a waiver, you're gonna add upwards of 1,000 more people to our population, and you're still gonna have the open space problem. You're just increasing it. Okay, so I'm not one who's going to provide waivers to our adequate public facilities ordinance in order to facilitate development. The good news is, and there are alternatives, the good news is that we're looking and going to start talking about the Harrison-Lashear property again. That property comes with somewhere around 85 acres of conservation space. That's one solution. The other solution would be to continue using state bond bills and things of that nature to find a way to fund that Center Street on our own and keep bringing the property owners and the developers back for mutual interest to make sure that Center Street gets built the correct way. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela?
We could answer this question in so many ways. So first of all, I introduced the ordinance. I support it 100%. When we created the MXD zoning itself, by voting that in, we said, yes, we do support the extension of Center Street, and we do support the development of the Beck property. Within that MXD zoning itself, the zoning addresses the APFO. This ordinance was intended from the day we passed or created the MXD zoning. We knew that we were going to have to pass this. We passed the same ordinance for the downtown area for the DTZ zone for infill development. Our focus is infill development. The Beck property is infill development. There's a lot of benefits that are going to be brought to the town because of the development of this Beck property. Amenities that we need that attract young professionals, bike trails, walk trails, shopping, dining. So while I understand that it may not be favored by all, I stand behind it. The developer needs it to continue forward. The other thing I would mention is the property owner nor the developer, they are never going to sell us that property that we need to extend Center Street. It's just not going to happen. The only way the town could take it is through eminent domain. And I, for one, am not in support of that. So by working with the developer, they have agreed to develop that property as an extension of our downtown to complement us, not to hurt us. So thank you.
Thank you. For Pamela, the Harrison-Lashear property is currently under the control of the county. What would you propose to do with the property in terms of working with the county commissioners, and is annexation still a possibility in your estimation?
So last winter, the IDA decided that they no longer wanted to work with Mount Airy on the annexation agreement. We were very close to coming to an agreement. They turned the property back over to Carroll County. Carroll County is actively seeking bids to develop that property. It is in the best interest of Mount Airy that we continue to have conversations with the county leaders so that they know that we're serious about bringing this property into the town. It is very important that we have control over the development so that the developer is held to our town code that is a group of volunteers looking out for our best interest and not Carroll County's planning commission. We want that process to go through our commission. So as mayor, I would continue to have those discussions with the county leaders. On September 30th, they met in in Westminster, and at that meeting, all the commissioners agreed that they need to re-engage in conversation with Mount Airy to see if annexation is a possibility. David Warrington, our town administrator, is currently working to schedule a meeting so that we can begin that discussion. So we can't stop the development of the Harrison-Lashear, but we can certainly work to ensure that it's developed to our town code by annexing it in, which protects our citizens.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, Harrison-Lashear is probably the elephant in the room when it comes to growth for this town. This is something that we probably should have been keeping a closer eye on for months. So that meeting of the commissioners is the one that I phoned in and said, listen, you can't add that much population right against our border without considering the impacts to our town. Like I said, Councilman Munder was there too, and he spoke, and the town had just sent a letter to the commissioners. I think it's the first time they heard from us, certainly since May, sent a letter to them that they had received the night before that was talking about one of the development plans that they had. But to get around to the question, what we need to do as a town, regardless of how we got to this point, is we need to engage the county and make sure that that development does not occur with their large amount of retail, commercial, high-density residential, and or just plain flat residential. We need to engage them and make sure that that does not occur. I do agree that one of the options is to talk to the commissioners about the possibility of annexing that land into the town. I'm not 100% sure that that's the correct path to go, but once on the mayor, I'll have access again to the town administrator and the town staff and make sure that we are protected from massive development on the north side of Watersville Road and the east side of State Highway 27. We have to do something about this. It cannot be ignored, and I think I'm the right guy to be in the position to sit down and deal with the county because I know the history of the property, and I think I can step in there with a good platform to start speaking from. Thank you.
Thank you. Various needs assessments over the years have identified a community center and sports facilities as being desired by residents. What are your thoughts on the feasibility of a community center and/or a sports complex, and have viable sites been identified? And we can start with Larry.
All right, thank you for the question. Yeah, the community center keeps coming up time and time again, and we even had a community center task force at one point that Bill's nodding because he was right there in the room, and we went around and looked at different community centers and researched exactly what we would want in one of those. Our biggest problem right now, as far as a community center goes, is that in the world of priorities, we don't have a police station right now. We need, the next building that we need to build, other than taking care of the Flatiron building, is a police station for a police force, because we're paying thousands of dollars a month in order to put them in a rental building right now. So as far as the community center goes, I've driven around. My wife and I, we take day trips. So we day tripped up to Perryville and looked at their police station up there, which was pretty new. And we also went up to, I think it was Thurmont, that had a police station that was tied to a community center. I think the answer to this, if we want to get a community center in somewhat of a timely fashion, is to look at any of those examples where a police station is combined with a community center and join those two projects together, so that we can have a 2-for-1 deal in that manner. As far as the sports complex goes, in the master plan, the 2013 master plan, we were depending on Harrison-Lashear to bring in that open space that could be used to develop a youth sports complex. That's the property that was identified. I do think that we have some areas that we could go and put a field in, and we could piece together some more amenities in those areas, but we need a large parcel of property in order to build a youth sports complex, and I'm going to be looking at all those alternatives and see if we can figure that out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pamela?
Yeah, so through the years, we've done 2 community surveys. I believe one was in 2008, one was last year. Both surveys say this community wants a community center. And to my knowledge, we did have a task force, but it never moved forward. I will say, again, that the Center Street extension not only could provide a permanent home for our police department, but a permanent home for a community center. And it's something that we have to look at as we move forward with these resolutions and ordinances and our discussions with the developers to see if it's a possibility. I will say that the Junior Task Force, which is a local group, young leaders that were teaching leadership and problem-solving skills, they have decided that their mission is to advocate for a community center. So stay tuned for them. The other thing I would mention is we need more youth athletic fields. We have Windy Ridge. Windy Ridge is in the master plan as youth fields. We need to explore the area to see if it's a possibility. So we do have options. We just have to be proactive in achieving goals, which I'm not 100% sure we have been in the past. So as mayor, I would be very proactive in seeking out a home for the police department and a community center and potentially on Center Street. So thank you.
Thank you. Recently, there's been discussion about creating a community garden in Mount Airy. As mayor, would you be in support of this effort? And if yes, how would you assist? For you, Pamela?
So I don't have a green thumb, so I could not be active in taking care of this community garden. Absolutely, we support it. Anything that engages the community and gets people out benefits us as a whole. We are a very tight-knit community. Most people know everyone around. You can't walk into Walmart without seeing 10 people you know. So one more amenity that brings people together, fully support. As mayor, obviously, as mayor, I could provide the resources that they need to make that successful, whether it's marketing, again, that community outreach so people know that it exists, fundraising help. Those are ways that we can bring it together and see it through.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, I am definitely in support of a community garden, and I know that a place has been identified because I met with a town staff member and a member of the Rotary Club over off of Rising Ridge Road, where we have a parcel of land that would accommodate a community garden. I know that we have some money in the budget for that to occur, and I would make sure that money shows up in the budget next year to make sure it occurs as well. One of the things that I do when I'm on my own is I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and the Rotary Club actually put in for a grant and is bringing money to the table, as well as people to support that community garden. I think a couple things could happen as the mayor to make sure that this endeavor is successful. One thing is, when we were walking on that property, there is no water spigot on that land. So I would work with the town engineer and the public works director and figure out how to plumb a spigot to that property so we don't have to depend on a water camel or something like that to go out there and water these things. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge is getting somebody out there to water it. And if you add the complication of filling up a water buffalo or something to bring it out there and get it done, I think that just impedes the success of it. So as a mayor, yes, I support the community garden. I think it's something that we've been talking about for a few years, and I think it's time to get that done. So, and I think we have a staff member who's extremely interested in it and very good at it. So, so I'll send her down there. Thanks.
Thank you. Starting with Larry this time. Have you self-funded your campaign or have you accepted private donations? If you have accepted private donations, have any of those donations been from businesses and or developers, and will those donations be made public to the community?
Yeah. I got to tell you, running a campaign is not the cheapest thing in the world. So, but I've self-funded every time that I've run. I've gone ahead and and drained an account down so I could buy all the signs and banners and everything else that's needed in the printed literature. I'm fortunate that that I'm able to do that, but but unfortunately my kids are stuck with broken cars and, and their drywall doesn't get fixed because I'm spending all the money on signs. One thing that that I'm proud of is the fact that, my signs and all my letters here and all that is taken care of within the town. It's I use SK Printing to take care of all the needs for my campaign, and I don't accept donations from anybody. I'm also very cautious about, where I put my signs and banners and everything. I'm very selective. I like to put, although it's probably not the smartest thing to do campaign-wise, I like one sign in every yard. And I just go around the community and try to put one sign in every yard. And I figure it serves as a reminder on November 2nd, because they'll wake up and they'll say, oh, it's today. And they'll go and vote. So let's see, if I got 300 signs out there times 2, that's probably about 600 people being reminded to go and vote. So I need a few hundred more. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela?
So, answer the question. Yes, I have received donations. I have not solicited donations. Friends came to me and offered to help support. Actually, there were a couple people within the community that I didn't even know that reached out to me and wanted to donate. So I tell them, well, I would never ask for a donation. If you're offering, I'm not going to say no. I am a single mother on a single income. Campaigning is extremely expensive. Signs, banners, shirts, I mean, it all adds up. I did have one local business support me, and I would be happy to share all that information with anyone in the community.
Thank you. Okay, this is a long question. A lot of the information's been touched on tonight, but I don't think specifically has hit what this is asking. So, proposals for the economic development of downtown Mount Airy include removal of the Flatiron building and changes to Center Street that would connect Route 27 to Main Street, likely increasing the volume and speed of traffic along the entire length of the road. Main Street has no shoulders, narrow sidewalks cluttered by mailboxes and telephone poles run through residential neighborhoods, and provides primary access for churches, 2 public schools, and the town's fire and emergency medical services. What would you do to help ensure that the character of our historic downtown, the safety of pedestrians and school children, and emergency service response times are not adversely affected by changes that are likely to facilitate the flow of traffic from the Route 27 bypass through town? And we'll start with Pamela.
How do we, that's a lot. Okay, so again, it all falls back into, in my opinion, Center Street. Center Street is the answer to a lot of the issues that we talk about all the time. The revitalization of downtown, it will address safety, parking, actually provide the police with easier access to the west and the east side of Mount Airy. So when we talk about safety on Center Street, the Flatiron building, they all go together. Park Avenue is a residential area, so, and that's a main artery into our downtown. Again, Center Street would become that main artery, taking some of that traffic off of Park Avenue. I'm sure the residents over there would be very happy. As mayor, I would continue to advocate for Center Street, because the benefits to our local economy are just what Mount Airy needs for the revitalization of downtown. As far as keeping our historic feel, what is proposed along Center Street will again complement our character. The commercial aspect of it will be very similar to what you see on Main Street. So we need to keep moving forward and keep advocating for it.
Thank you. Larry?
What I would say is that I do agree the downtown vision plan is a pretty solid plan, and that includes the extension or the completion of Center Street. My concern, and what I've always tried to do, is meter what is occurring. In other words, I don't want to snap our fingers and all of a sudden you just change the entire character of Mount Airy. I've always been one, even when we talked about rerouting Park Avenue, I wanted to break that into segments, so that we didn't, basically just change the whole character of the town at one time. I think that people need to kind of see the direction that we're going and we don't just jump in head first and hit the bottom of the pool, you know? So what I think is that protecting the character of the town, which is something I kind of open with, make sure that all the dominoes fall in the proper sequence. Right now, and I'll go back to the Harrison-Lashear property, the things that the county is talking about doing up on that side of town is going to be something that impacts the domino that we call Main Street, the character of our town. So I think that the way to protect our Main Street and to make sure that our economy stays vibrant and that the safety occurs is to make sure that we don't do anything so radical that it changes everything at one time. That's the reason why I like the fact that that property was not supposed to be zoned until it went through the master plan process. It needed a couple more years for us to go through the proper process and make sure that everybody knew what was going on, that it was transparent, and it was something that people expected. I don't like deviating outside of the lines, and I feel like we're doing that right now. Thanks.
Thank you. And now we've reached our last question this evening. Once again, we want to thank everyone who submitted questions ahead of time and thank everyone in the audience who provided questions for tonight. Much appreciated. So, Larry, we'll start with you. If a friend of yours is contemplating a move into the area, what would you tell that person about Mount Airy?
Well, I would tell that person that they're about to move into one of the most historic and unique towns in the entire country. It is a great place to live, a great place to raise your children. We have good schools on both sides of our Main Street, Frederick County and Carroll County, and we're not that far from a lot of great things to do. It's a terrific place to live and to raise a family. I would tell them as well that, when they move into our town, there's a lot of opportunities for family activities. Our town is very engaged in helping our nonprofits to hold events. We have great carnivals. The Oktoberfest was wonderful. There's a lot of great things and events that go on in this town, as well as there's a lot of opportunities to get out there and get involved as far as volunteering. That can be on town commissions, which we have several vacancies now, and I'd like to make sure that our commissions are diverse throughout the communities, and I'm going to work toward that. Or the nonprofits, be it the Kiwanis Club, the Rotary, the Lions Club. They all have things going on. There's a lot of opportunity here. We have several scout troops for the kids to join, and we have a lot of youth sports opportunities here as well. Basically, we have everything that a family needs in Mount Airy to come here, raise your family with a high quality of life, and succeed, and wake up every day knowing that you got something exciting to do here in Mount Airy. So that's what I would tell them. They made a good choice, and when they do get bored, they should go down to the museum, and they should check out the caboose, and they should get involved in the Historical Society, because it's a whole different plateau of Mount Airy. You can enjoy it day to day, but when you learn about the history of it, you're just going to be fascinated. Thanks.
Thank you. Pamela?
If I had a friend that wanted to move to Mount Airy, I would tell them that it is a very safe place to raise your family. If you love open air and open space, this is definitely where you want to come. Mount Airy is the most welcoming, engaged community I've ever lived in. I've been here 21 years, and I'm pretty sure I will stay here the rest of my life. Mount Airy is full of local events that are organized by volunteering, and I would tell them that if they did not want to become a volunteer, that Mount Airy may not be for them. We rely on volunteers for just about everything we do. We have a number of volunteer service clubs, so it doesn't matter what your interests are. We probably have something, a way to engage you in our local community. That's what I would tell them.
Thank you. That concludes the question and answer portion of the forum. We'll now take closing statements, where each candidate will have 2 minutes to present a summary of their candidacy. So we'll start with candidate Pamela Reed.
So I was going to read a statement, but I think I'll just speak from my heart. Again, I have lived here for 21 years. I have been very active in the community through volunteering, committees, commissions, currently serving on town council as council secretary. I was elected by my peers as secretary in May of this year. Serving this community is, aside from having children, of course, the most rewarding thing I believe I have ever done. We are tasked with making tough decisions, which may or may not always be popular, but we make those decisions with the community's best interest in mind. As mayor, I would continue that. I want to serve the community in this capacity because I deeply love it, and I want to protect our town, not only from overdevelopment, but from economic uncertainty. So please vote for Pamela Reed on November 2nd. You know, win or lose, this has been an incredible experience. Larry, it has been an honor running with you, against you. So yeah, it's just really been a humbling experience. Unfortunate circumstances why we're both sitting here, but we both, I know you do, Larry, love this town. So thank you for giving us both this opportunity.
Thank you. And now, candidate Larry Hushour, you have the final word.
Okay, thank you. Again, I want to extend my thanks to Bob and the Carroll Media Center for hosting this event as well. It's been a pleasure sitting up here with you, Pam. I believe the best part of these forums is realizing there are people in our town who care deeply about our community and are willing to put their hearts out there to serve to the best of their ability with little compensation for the time required to do the job correctly. It only takes 1 or 2 council meetings to gain mutual respect at the table, even when disagreeing on matters. Hopefully, I have shown you that I am ready to accept the role of mayor seamlessly so we may move into the next events scheduled for the town. Veterans Day will come up on us quickly, followed by all the holiday preparations, and when January rolls around, workshops will begin for our next budget cycle. When the spring activities begin, I look forward to working with the staff and all of our nonprofits to ensure the success of many family-friendly events along Main Street and in our parks. I look forward to working with Pam on the Parks Board to complete the pump track for the skateboarders and other parks-related projects. Our future is bright, but there are indeed some serious concerns that cannot be ignored, and they require firm leadership and experience. The desire of Carroll County to develop in a high-density manner just north of Watersville Road is looming over our heads. If we do not engage them with true grit, I do fear that Mount Airy may become the next victim of the overdevelopment that regrettably serves as the truest threat to our small town charm. I believe I am the best person to sit at the table when we work with the county to mitigate their desires and the negative impacts on Mount Airy that they may bring. Thank you for your time and your consideration to serve as the next mayor of Mount Airy. Thank you.
We'd like to thank both candidates who participated in our forum this evening, as well as our moderator, Bob Blueball. And also special thanks to everyone who submitted questions for tonight's forum. This forum has been recorded and will be available for on-demand viewing on both the CMC website at carrollmediacenter.org and also on YouTube. It will also be rebroadcast on cable channel 19 and HD 1086, so 2 different channels. The first rebroadcast will be tomorrow evening, on cable channel 19 at 7:00 p.m. and on HD 1086 at 9:30. After those first 2 rebroadcasts, the forum will continue to air on both channels all the way up to the day before the election on November 1st. For those additional dates and times, visit the Carroll Media Center channel guide at www.carrollmediacenter.org. Before we go, I'd like to encourage everyone to learn about these 2 viable candidates in the Mount Airy Special 2021 Mayoral Election by visiting CMC's website at carrollmediacenter.org. Thanks to all of you for joining us this evening, and good night.